This video is to talk you through Edward Hopper's use of media handling and techniques, his style and his use of colour in his 1927 painting Automat. And we're going to start with media handling and techniques. And the media he used was oil paint on canvas. The first thing to say about Hopper's media handling is that he used very careful and precise brushstrokes. It was said by somebody that he treats people with paint in the same way he treats buildings. So in a very, very precise way, a less maybe expressive way, but a very precise and careful way. Another thing we can say is that Hopper very carefully blends tones to create smooth form. So we can see this in the hat of the sitter in the painting and in her legs as well. Two areas where you can see very, very careful blending that's given us these very smooth form, and again, a little bit more smooth and less textured than you would find in real life. However, a third thing to say about the way he's used to paint is that the background in the painting, the window that takes up most of the background, seems to be done in much thinner paint, more like a wash than the thicker paint that's used on the rest of the painting. And he seems to have applied this more expressively, and unusually for Hopper, more expressively, because it seems quite patchy, and you can see a little bit of sort of loose brushwork in there. And now we're moving on to Hopper's style. Realism is Hopper's style, a soft American realism that simplifies the subject. So, Hopper strives for precise representation, exact representation. He doesn't stylize or change things. He wants it, well, I think he accidentally stylizes them to make them slightly more simplified than normal. So, realism, very realistic treatment of the subject. And in fact, there was another style or movement that Hopper's related to, which was again an American one from, sort of mid last century, called Precisionism. That's very geometric compositions painted with clean lines and a lack of expression. So again, that kind of perfect, clean-edged touch that Hopper's got to his work. Another style or another school of painting that Hopper is related to is the Ashcan school from New York. Hopper came along slightly after this, but this was a school of painting that concentrated on everyday scenes from New York City life. What you generally call in art genre paintings, when you see everyday people going about their everyday business. But the Ashcan school concentrated on New York scenes of life. And remember, the big city, New York, and these things were relatively new. The kind of modern idea of the city was relatively new at that point. So this idea of looking at what goes on in the modern city, the Ashcan school was one of the first styles and movements in the modern American painting to show that. And lastly, it's Hopper's use of colour in Automat. If you look at the background in the painting, you'll see that the palette is quite limited. There's two main colours, and that's this ochre yellow colour, and there are shades of that, sort of brown, ochre yellow colour, and the blue, and that very light blue as well. And apart from that, it's just blacks we have. So that's quite a limited palette in the background, and that creates this restrained atmosphere. It's not a celebratory or jovial or happy or joyful atmosphere. It's a restrained atmosphere, which suits the melancholy mood of the painting. However, towards the middle of the painting, we do have a concentration of colour, and especially what we can see is the red, warm reds and oranges of the bowl in the background against the green of the sitter's coat. Creates a colour contrast which draws our attention and creates a little bit of life towards the middle of the painting, kind of off centre but not right in the middle. And this and so that identifies the subject in this fruit as the only living things in this automat. Remember, the automat is a cafe that doesn't have any people working in it. It's just machines, it's just vending machines, and it was the idea of a modern thing in the city, but Hopper obviously saw a little bit of, melancholy loneliness, the possibility of melancholy loneliness in there. But like I say, the soul, the life that that's represented in the painting is the colourful part with that colour contrast in the middle. Another thing we can say about the use of colour in this is the background, this black background. I know it's patchy, but it's very, very dark, especially around the sitter and the fruit bowl. And that really deep black helps make the reds and the green much more vibrant, because it creates a kind of contrast with that. Colours always kind of appear a bit more vibrant against the black background. So that use of black also helps emphasise those colours and that colour contrast as well. So that was 3 things about his media handling, 3 things about his style, and 3 things about his use of colour. You're welcome to write down in your notes everything I've said, but remember, we really just need you to note down 2 things for each of those headings. Thank you very much.